Apple ended its longest losing streak of falling sales in 20 years. And despite record holiday profit, you had China coming up short, $3 billion light when it comes to sales, and that's dragging down the stock in reaction. I spoke to CEO Tim Cook about this, and he told me that if you look at mainland China and convert to constant currency, we were down in the mid-single digits for iPhone, and the dollar is very strong. That particularly affects China, but we were glad that iPhone performed better than many of the other categories, and we feel good about the long term in both countries. Both countries meaning China and the US. And we know that iPhone sales did better in the quarter. On the US smartphone market, Tim says that I would describe it as being uneven. I think that's sort of the best description that you have. So our Pro models did reasonably well during the quarter. Since we launched 15 in September, 15 is outgrowing 14, and so we feel good about that. On AI, Tim Cook has now ignited a lot of excitement in the Wall Street analyst crowd because he's hinting of a big Apple AI artificial intelligence release later on this year that'll compete with ChatGPT in generative AI. So on this, he hints that we're investing in several technologies of the future that includes generative AI. As you know, it's not our practice to reveal details of our plans before we announce them. So all I'm going to say today is that we're very excited about what we've got going on internally, and we'll have more to say on it later on this year. Now, think of the type of technology and the amount of research and development that Apple can afford with its $173 billion in cash. And that, by the way, is more than 75% of the companies listed on the S&P 500. On regulation, and I had to ask about the European Digital Markets Act and the App Store changes there. Cook says that it really depends on the choices that users make and developers make, and it's very hard to estimate that with precision with the EU regulations in place where we need to comply, and so we throw in a bunch of resources internally. I also asked about the Apple Watch ban and losing that trade ruling on the blood oxygen feature. Cook says that the ban was only in effect for a few days of the December quarter, and it's now available for sale once again while we appeal the ruling without the blood oxygen feature, and so we'll see. But I would point out that the watch is chock full of features that people love, so I'm optimistic. Now, Apple releasing the results on the eve of the launch of their new virtual reality Vision Pro $3,500 headsets, which will be available in stores starting on Friday, February the 2nd. Analysts predict that they'll ship around 400,000 of these headsets in the first year, ramping up to 4 to 5 million each year in the next half decade or so. Now, remember, for a company the size of Apple, $1 billion in sales isn't that much money. Remember, they make $100 billion in profit each and every year. But will the excitement in this new product category, the first device launch in 10 years since the Apple Watch, will it be enough to get Apple back up to the $3 trillion mark after they lost the crown as the world's biggest company to Microsoft this year?